Good morning, you beautiful people. I hope you all had a great Sunday and really enjoyed those two games on offer there. Up the Cowboys. Two in a row. We're on. Top 8, here we come. I think we're 13th now after those two beautiful wins. So there you go. But here we are. Dragons, Warriors. I got pretty lucky this week on this game, especially. I had Tohu and Roger. So our two top scorers in the game I picked up, and we got to acknowledge these moments when we actually get lucky. We always talk about how unlucky we get in this game, and this is one of those ones where I did get lucky. I brought in Tohu this week. He's been someone that's just been getting 60 every week, really consistent, and this week he ended up getting 20 over his average and got a nice try there. So, and even went off and had to go off for 15 minutes there before he came back on and finished the game. But awesome work from Tohu, and with Roger, we ended up getting about 20 above his, pretty much almost 20 above his average there as well. So really happy with that. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick up 1,000 this week, but ended up with 1,051. So we'll take that with those two guys, and then Alvaro a little bit later. But Tohu is just it's really cool when you've got someone that's really good at getting his base stats, getting through a lot of work in big minutes, and then he can get those tries as well. So that's 2 tries for the year now, and if they can use him in that capacity more regularly, like that was a really good play from Egan there, look to the outside, pass back into Tohu. If they can do that regularly, I think he can be someone that can average in that mid-60s like he is right now after 6 rounds. If he can pick up a try, one every 6 rounds would be pretty cool. Dual position, only misses 1 game over the origin period. He's someone that really needs to be in the bulk of teams there. Whether he plays in the front row, in the lock position, spends some time on the edge, it really doesn't matter with him. He has options to score in multiple ways, and which is really cool. And then with Roger, there's 2 games in a row he's done really well, 68 and then a 69, and scored a really nice try to help them win the game. But how good was that? They completed 40 out of 40 sets, which is incredible. I think the first time that's ever happened in the NRL era. So congrats to the Warriors. Deserve a nice clap there. Against the Dragons team that's been playing really well. So an awesome game for them, and was a good game to watch there as well. Really happy with Roger. When you're buying him at an average of 47 being priced at that one there, you're really happy with him scoring 9 above that average across that 6 games. And like we spoke about with wing fullbacks, they're going to get the 30 odd, and then they're going to get the 70. And we've noticed that with Teddy this year that he hasn't had that massive score yet. He's had a few 70s, but in previous years he ends up with 110, 105 in certain games, and that will come. A lot of people thinking about trading him this week, but again, guys, these types of keepers that have done it for years on years, you need to be looking to keep them. We saw that example with Cam Murray the other day as well. He hasn't been scoring incredibly, average around that 50 mark or just below, and then he comes out and scores a try and picks up 80, and now his average is in the mid-50s again. So please be careful with these types of guys and trading them in and out and rage trading and that type of thing there, and bringing in the next hot player, because what we've seen a lot this week is that those hot players tend to revert back at some point, or they get a 35. We have the exception with guys like Isaiah Papali'i, who just keeps scoring tries and keeps doing it, but the majority of guys will have up and down weeks. So that's something to think about there. And Cody Nikorima, same sort of thing with him. He's going to be up and down his scoring. Averaging 55 over the first 6 games is amazing for him, but he's going to have a 30 odd. He's have an 80. He'll have a 70, right? So just be aware of that with those types of players that aren't the super consistent guys like Tohu. They're going to be up and down, but across the season, their average will reflect how they're playing. So that's with that one there. And then Josh Curran, we spoke about him in the preseason about being a really cool option if he picked up the starting spot in this Warriors pack. And with how many forwards they've got currently, he wasn't able to get that position. And really strange that he actually played 80. Obviously was having a good game, and they decided to keep him out there that whole time. So if this is something that happens regularly, I think he needs to be a staple in everyone's side. Even though they missed that round 13 bye, if he can keep that up, I think he's going to make a lot of money. Obviously, we're not expecting 66s every week, 50 tackles, 140 meters. We're not expecting that with a try saver as well. But he is someone that does have a really nice work rate. And if he can play 50 to 60 minutes, he's going to make a lot of money. At 246 right now, he's going to go up to about 280, 290 overnight. And then from that stage, it'll be like, depending on who who you can cash out in your team to get to him. But obviously, just let's wait until team lists before we make that decision. It's good to see Norman still playing well, scoring well, 536 kick meters there for 26 points, which was really helpful for him. But again, not someone that a lot of people have. Jazz Savanga was someone that a lot of people traded in this week and did end up moving to the bench. And I imagine a lot of people would have been stressed with that one. But yeah, for him to come on and still get 50 minutes, they obviously did have an injury, which changed a few things with their lineup. But yeah, for Jazz to get that 50 minutes, you're really happy with that for him. If he can get that each week, he's going to score in the 50s for sure. But yeah, not as crazy this week with his missed tackles or the amount of tackles that he made. But two turnover tackles, 36 tackles, 112 meters, ends up with 57. So well done if you picked him up at a nice cut price there. I expect him to bottom out around, closer to 700k. I'd imagine would be his high. He's someone that's a little bit inconsistent with minutes and stuff. Year to year. I said I owned him last year, and he sort of did a job, but he wasn't a top line keeper by the end of the season. All right, AMAC 56 in his 80 minutes, so 50 tackles again, just doing his thing as per usual. So a slightly lower game for him. Just didn't have any attacking stats at all. Like didn't even get one offload or anything like that. So yeah, is what it is for him. You're happy with that score if you've got him. Pompey played well. Lomax, a few people starting to bring him in, thinking about him as an option there, and 51 points you're really happy with. He had a lot more tackles than usual and a bit over 100 meters, which was great. So happy days when you pick up a centre and they have one line break, one goal, and still pick up 51. So great work from him. Ravalawa played well, got a nice try. Ken Mamalo got 50, which was a lot higher than what he usually gets. Jack Bird's the one we want to talk about. And if priced at 405k, he's going to be up closer to 450 after this week, I imagine, 440, 450. And really working back into the form that he showed in previous years. And this is kind of what we expected. It only took him 1 week, one poor week at the start, to then now be averaging 40, for the entire year. And that's close to a 45, 46 average over that first, the last 5 games the last 4 games that he's played. So if you picked him up, you're really happy with him. And I think he could end up turning into a keeper in the center position if he keeps up this form. Obviously, with him, he's had some issues with injury in the past, and that's something to think about. You can think about that with Tommy Trbojevic as well. But you're just picking them off the form they're currently showing. And these types of guys are showing great form. So he's someone that if you need a replacement this week, I think he's a good option. Maguire came over and played 57 minutes off the bench, which is crazy for a 46. But again, not an option at 615k. Leeson Armour at 504k has done a really good job for those that are playing him and have him as a cash cow. He's slowly going to get to a peak price in the next sort of 50 to 60k next few weeks there. So something to think about. I think with him, you definitely hold him until that round 13 bye, and then you move him on. They're not going to play that first one, but I think that's a good time to move him on there. Paul Turner came on off the bench, but he's not going to be an option. Egan with 44, so even with a try assist, he just had a little bit lower amount of tackles there and didn't have to do too much in the game apart from that nice try assist to Tohu. So again, he's someone that's building closer to his peak price of 555 right now. And when he gets there, which will be fairly soon, again, I think he's someone you can hold up and close until that 13 bye, or for the next few weeks you can use his cash to upgrade somewhere else if you have enough scorers. So I feel like if you've got 17 strong scorers at like a 40 minimum type of player, then you can move Egan on. Until then, I think you should hold him and keep playing him. Vaughan with 42, a little bit lower again. Alvaro, finally this week I played him and he actually scored well enough. The previous time I played him, he got 26. So I was worried with him at the start. He had 11 points in 22 minutes, but came back really well. And when you're making 37 tackles in your 45 minutes, you've got a good player on your squad there. So still some cash to make with him before he peaks out around that 500k mark, I'd say. But again, someone you can hold over the next bunch of weeks, especially, and I'd be keeping him until round 13 if you have him at this stage, like myself. Fuamano saves you from losing a little bit of cash this week with a 40. So if you can hold somewhere around that, he could be another decent option to hold on your bench. With all the suspensions and injuries that are happening on a regular basis, and these types of the guys that are just there doing the job every week that you can keep. Sometimes you have to play them in your 17, sometimes you won't have to, but they're there for cover, which is a good option. Turnell Brown, Kerr, Clune, Bunty Afoa. Again, one of those guys that people are really interested in, and I've got to get him in because he's fairly cheap. But anything in the 300s there, they have to score closer to 40 to make you some good cash. We saw what happened with Spencer Leniu. He once he got priced around that 300 mark. If you have a high 20s game and then a random 40 game, that mid to low 30s average kind of stuffs you around a little bit because you stop making money fairly quickly, or you make 10, 5k a week, 15k a week. And that's what's going to happen with Bunty here. He's just not going to get the minutes, unfortunately. If you've got guys like Jazz on the bench, taking 50 minutes, there's not a lot further to go around. When Tohu's playing big minutes, there's not much there. You've got Curran on the edge there playing 80, so slightly annoying if you've got R4. But yeah, again, not someone you have to trade out immediately, but he's not going to make you a crap load of money there. Tarek Sims, a bunch of people talking about, but again, he's going to be that rocks and diamonds. He needs tries to do well. Dufty with 25, so even with a try and a try assist, a bit of a lower game for him with a few demerits, but this is to be expected from Dufty, but also fullbacks in general. Murdoch was still with 22, Marin with 20, only had the one stint, so allowed for a few extra minutes for Maguire, it seems, and thankfully on my part that Alvaro wasn't the one to lose those minutes. It was Marin in this case. So if you have Marin, I'd be suggesting moving him on at 488k. You have enough to trade him to someone else. But in 29 minutes, he only had a couple of runs for 28 meters. So yeah, that's that one there. Our big one of the week is going to be O'Sullivan, and again, another lesson to be learnt on this one is the fact that O'Sullivan has had a lot of games in the past where he hasn't scored as well. These first 3 games for him were absolutely off the charts, right? Like you haven't seen that from him before. Yes, he's probably improved as a player, but you can't stay at that forever, right? Again, we always revert back to the mean. And O'Sullivan was someone that he's not an out-and-out gun. You've got Cody Nikarima who shares the responsibilities. And when you have those types of players with you and you're not the sole dominant player like a Townsend, for example, then your games where you don't get involved as much or you don't have any assists or you miss a few tackles, you had 3 errors as well, you're going to score really low. And that, unfortunately, that happened with O'Sullivan, and people were like, he's a gun. He's gonna score 55. He's gonna average 55 every week. Well, just simmer with that, because yes, our people's team brought him in last week and it worked out great. And over the 2 weeks, we got about a 95 average. We'll take that for sure. But just be aware that these types of players aren't out and out guns in the game, but also in the real game, but also in fantasy as well. So just be careful with that. He's definitely not a trade out. He'll probably, there's every chance he goes back to a 50 score next week. But just be careful with these types of guys going forward when you're selecting your squads. We're all having to use a bunch of trades at the moment. So be aware that spending them up on these types of guys sometimes doesn't work out best for the squad. Like my team this week, I did have to burn 2 trades and it worked out all right with Little and Ricky. I ended up trading to a top line gun in Tohu and then a promising cash cow in Simpkin. And that's the type of trade to be looking to make rather than bring in that middle kind of guy, 350, 450k, who need to do well every week or they stop making you money, right? Simpkin can go for a 25 and still make you some cash. If he's mixing that with a 40 or 50, you're still going to make some good coin. Whereas these types of guys need to get that 40, 50 every week on average. Otherwise, they're stifling their money-making potential. So that's my thoughts on that one, guys. And we'll move to the Cowboys and the Bulldogs. And I really appreciate it if you hit like on this video and subscribe if you're new. All right, Renu for Tony. He had a bit of an up and down game. He had 2 interesting errors, which they've only given him 1, I think. But that pass at the start of the game straight into Averillo's side, that was good. But then scored a nice try and played 47 minutes for 66. So when a Tony's the highest scorer in the game, there's not a lot of great players running around. Mitch Dunn ran sideways for a bunch of points there in a try at the end. So well done to him off the bench, but again, not an option. Luke Thompson was someone we spoke about a little bit last week, and him being a fairly solid option. And for him to play 56 minutes in the front row, you're going to be expecting some decent scores. And for me, I think I can see him averaging around 50 or maybe just above. And that puts him about 100k undervalued. So for Thompson, he's a very solid player in general. And if he can pick up those tackle breaks like he did this week against some better teams, then I think he's going to be cool to watch. But again, they're up against the Cowboys, who did beat them, obviously, but they're not an incredible side by any stretch. So Thompson, an interesting option going forward. Val Holmes had a pretty solid game, I think, from NRL standards, but also with fantasy there. 219 meters there, 5 goals. He actually kicks the goals really well at the moment. A line break and a try assist and 7 tackle breaks. So a nice all-round game for him, and he's slightly undervalued. But again, I'd be wary of bringing in Cowboys players at this point. Shane Wright with another decent game, but again, he's going to be up and down with his scoring. Robson with a try, but again, only playing 50 minutes is annoying for him. Molo had a nice, basically a line break. They didn't credit it for it, but anyway, decent game. Dallin Watini at fullback is doing a fairly decent job. He's averaging 44 for the season, so he's sneakily making a fair bit of cash, and he'll be up over 100k made for the season so far, which is cool. And again, probably not an option. I wouldn't be selecting any Dogs players apart from someone like Elliot and Avarillo are kind of doing okay with Flanagan also, but again, not perfect options. They're not going to be out and out strong keepers. Flanagan might be around that, but there's a bunch of guys ahead of him at this stage. But Elliot there, 48, 4 offloads there. No real attacking stats in terms of tackle breaks, but 48 and 80 minutes. Again, this is going to be around his base at mid-40s or so, and then if he scores a try, which he always threatens to, then he's going to do well. Avery with 48. How good's he come on since I traded him out? Jeez Louise. That'll put him up about 60 or 70k now for the year, and if you've managed to hold on to him, he's actually half a chance at starting in your centres if you want him to. Kicked a couple of goals as well, and Flanagan hurt his leg, so we'll see what happens with Flano for next week, but for him to kick 343 meters, maybe that was because Flanagan was a bit hurt, but they kind of shared the responsibility of the whole game, not just after the injury. Obviously, he had 3 turnover tackles in there as well, so not going to get that each week, but 48 was amazing if you had to play him, but you'd be expecting somewhere around the 30 to 35, I'd expect from him. So anyway, making some good cash on him, and that's all you need there. Flano we spoke about, just obviously hurt himself a little bit at the end and missed out on maybe 10 points there. Lockie Burr, Ben Hampton, he's kind of, what's he doing? He's turned the tables. Is he actually going to play well? Again, think about it in terms of Sean O'Sullivan. Can come out and have a bunch of good games, but then there's every chance that he gets 20 next week. Yeah, he could keep going, but I don't really want to spend my cash on these types of guys when there's a good chance that they get a 20 and their money making potential just stifles, right? So he's going to be up 330, 340 this week. Again, moved into that weird range. If you bought him in this week or the week before, then you've done really well out of it. But from here on, I think is a little bit of a worry. Obviously, some people are like, oh, well, I might have Latrell or Momorowski out this week and I want to bring in Hampton. And you can definitely, but I'd just be wary of him. But obviously, if he continues playing in the halves position, there's a decent chance that 30 is kind of his base. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not holding my breath with his scores anyway. Ben Condon, for anyone that brought him in, picked up a try and played 70 minutes. But again, he's not scoring well enough in base stats to be an option. Corey Waddell, Hopewade with a 38, so a bit better than his season average. But again, in a dog side that aren't really scoring tries, he's not going to be a great option. We've got Jensen in there. Drinkwater, Granville, not a lot to talk about down there. Allen with one of his high scores of the year with 29. Torpenny's an interesting one. He actually did get high minutes the last week, but to pick up 26, he had 8 in demerits. So again, we'll make you a little bit of cash, but he's definitely not an option going forward. I think he's too highly priced now. He'll be up about 330 after this game. And Nick Kotrick is really stinking it up since he's had a couple of average games in centres and then moved back to the wing. And again, in a dog side that isn't doing too well, he's not an incredible option for you. And Hetherington with the big swinging arm to get sent off again. What do we think of that? Was it worth a send-off or a sin bin? Let me know what you think. Got a try assist as well and picked up 16 in his 25 minutes. So well done to him. That's about all, guys. That's all for those Sunday games. Let me know what your lessons learned for the week were, how your team scored, and we'll see you in a lot of the videos during the week. Please turn on that notification bell so you can catch up with all these videos. And as I said before, asking in the comments about certain questions, I'm going to be making videos about each player. Please jump back into the previous videos on this one if you want to learn some more, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Have a good week.